Now, some of you may recall that I retired from having spent a career working with the Federal Investigation of Birds, FIB, also working with OVID, Observation, Verification, Identification Department, and that's our primary labs for FIB, and also trained as CSI PU, Chicken Special Investigations Poultricide Unit. Now, out of retirement, every once in a while, I get called back for special advice and counsel on cases. And I had just finished up a case and was about to leave, and I realized I need to spend a little time at you see, every once in a while, a case comes to our office and we reject it because of location or its character, or frankly, just too weird for our standards. And we put them in a file and kind of tuck them away. We sometimes call them the CHX files, or around the office, we refer to them as the chick mix, or the chick files. And I just stopped to go through the chick files, and a clutch of uninvestigated reports caught my attention. You see, about 2018, there was an earthquake just outside of Delicias, Mexico, state of Chihuahua. And it was sort of punctuated by lots of birds. Now, that's very unusual because, during an earthquake, birds are normally silent before, during, and after. Well, I also noticed that just a little bit further north, the La Chuguilla cave system, 145 miles of caves, the sister caverns to Carlsbad Caverns. They were exploring there, and they found chicken droppings, what appeared to be chicken droppings, miles from any entrance. I also noticed in the files that there was a poultry confinement operation just outside of Penrose, Colorado, that suddenly lost all their water pressure and their pumping operations were down. Then I noticed another file that up, the Powder River Basin, the coal mining area outside of Gillette, Wyoming, and there a sudden eruption of chicken feathers had occurred there in the open pit mining area. And further north, up in Saskatchewan at the Black Lake Diamond Mine, they had also heard what appeared to be noises of birds half a mile under the surface. Now, normally cases like this would not particularly attract attention, but I noticed a couple of things. They all had been occurring regularly since 2018, and all roughly along the 105th meridian. Now, what particularly got my attention was DNA analysis had been done on both the droppings in La Chuca cave system and the feathers up in Wyoming, and they all were of the species Gallus antica. This was a chicken believed to have gone extinct tens of thousands of years ago. Well, immediately I was able to get funding and put a team together. Now, we did not have access to Mexico and Canada. Our access was restricted to the cave system, but they were able to get us in an abandoned well near Penrose, Colorado. And with the help of workers at the mine up in the Powder River Basin, we were able to get access to what we discovered was miles and miles of tunnels, approximately 1/2 mile under the surface at the western edge of the Great Plains. My speculation and my team was, this is a vast network that we need to explore. Now, fortunately, my team was able to get together some resources that were just absolutely essential to us. They got us some drones, with sonar and special cameras and all that stuff, and they were able to sort of explore. And in the meanwhile, as we were beginning to get the documentation back from the drones, we discovered what was going on. Those tunnels, like I don't know, prairie dog tunnels or anthills, just tunnels and chambers all over the place. We think there were thousands and thousands of miles of networks of tunnels. We had to put together an investigation team. Now, the problem was the tunnels were fairly short. It would have meant folks like me just crawling and crawling for thousands of miles. We couldn't do that. But my team put together a couple of subterranean vehicles that were able to navigate. They were kind of like big fat cigars that a person could lay down inside of them and be at the controls and go through the tunnels. We got 2 of those, one for me and one for Michelle, my trusted assistant. And we kind of nicknamed them Egg Bert and Egg Ernie. And so we got Bert and Ernie, and we started then following what the drones had shown us. And my goodness, the worlds that opened up. these tunnels, some of them, they all appeared to be sort of pecked out, sometimes of softer sedimentary rock and other times deposits, but they were all smooth and again, the circular development of those tunnels made for stability. The drones had not picked up any living creatures. Now, occasionally there was a blur went across one of the cameras and eerily silent. And that was our experience too. And we began to do that. Occasionally we'd find a room large enough where you could get out of Bert and Ernie and stand up and walk around. And again, nothing. It was on the 6th day, stepped out into a chamber, noticing that some of those chambers were used perhaps for food storage or for hatcheries or whatever. And as we were looking around that chamber, then we heard the noise. It was kind of a low guttural. And before we knew it, we were surrounded by 8 rooster-looking creatures. They were about this tall, shiny, silvery black feathers with pale pink combs and translucent beaks and claws that were actually more like talons. And they stood around looking at us. Michelle and I froze in place. They would kind of tilt their heads, look at us, dare not make a sound or a move. We couldn't figure out if they were trying to decide were we friend or food. And after what seemed like about an hour, all of them in a single movement set. Then one got up, walked over in front of us, and began with his talons to scratch out something on the surface of the floor. I noticed the distinct right to left movement of his scratchings. I watched carefully. He assumed his position in the circle, sat down. I photographed what he had scratched out, nodded my head, and as quickly as they appeared, they disappeared back into the darkness of the tunnels. Well, immediately, Michelle and I got back in Bert and Ernie and went back to home base and were sharing that information with our crew. And we were able, of course, to get online and connect with linguistic scholars and figured out that what we actually had found was a kind of a cuneiform writing. And we were able to translate it. And it said, "Our home, leave, keep secret." Now, my desire as an explorer was just to further investigate this civilization of Gallus, Antigua. But yet, out of respect for what they were saying to us, I didn't think we wanted to invade their world any further. And so we had this discussion, Michelle and I, and with our team, and we decided to honor their wishes and not invade their world anymore. Well, with federal budgets, there's always sort of cutbacks and staff shortages. And I just want to let you know before I finish here that if you're concerned about further bird research in the United States, and you want to make sure that our national security, our resources, our lives are protected and treasured finds are protected, I want you to go to #poop. That's protect our own poultry, POOP, and just let them know you're concerned for maintaining. But now this creates a dilemma for me. You see, I was pledged, personally vowed to keep this secret. And now I have shared it with you. So folks, I'm going to have to ask that none of you tell anything about what you heard today. Keep it quiet. And now, if it gets back, Michelle and I and our team have vowed to disavow it all. We didn't say anything. If you have to make up something, say, oh, it was just some wasted federal project that discovered abandoned mine shafts and natural gas and fake news. But be assured that information has been preserved for some time in the future that we might need to use it. You will find it in the 3rd level of the sub-basement of the Smithsonian Institution, 2 rows over from the Ark of the Covenant. Chickens underground.